Hey, you kids, get off my lawn. Welcome to yet another edition of the Cranky's Corner. I am the cranky old man. And today, I got a special treat for you. I gotta admit, it was one I was, it's an album I was a little bit leery of getting, a little bit nervous about it, but I'm glad I got it because it is really damn good and it gave me everything I wanted from this band. The band is Judas Priest, and the album is, let me get it on the screen here, Invincible Shield. It's really, really good. And on this one, Glenn Tipton plays a lot of the guitar on it. Not sure how, I mean, a lot. And you can tell, you can listen to this and you can tell. Now, as you know, Glenn Tipton was one of the original Judas Priest members, and he's had Parkinson's disease. He's been suffering with it for quite some time, and he actually sat out on the Firepower tour. Now, this is the next album. This is their latest album. And I'll tell you why I was, before I get into the meat and potatoes of this album, let me tell you why I was leery about it. You see, Judas Priest came out with this album first. Well, it wasn't their first album, but when they were trying to reestablish themselves after Turbo and Ram It Down and everything, and everybody thought their star was falling, they came out with this Painkiller. Now, Painkiller is a masterpiece. I'm not going to say anything bad about Painkiller. I can't. All right? Nobody can. But I do have one little complaint about Painkiller, and that's the fact that, well, Judas Priest always had different tempos in their music. They had fast songs, they had slow songs, they had medium tempo songs. This Painkiller was, I'm sorry, they were just pissing all over their territory. They were going to show who the heaviest and who the hardest band was. That's all there was to Painkiller. But Painkiller was, and again, I'm going to say it again, Painkiller is an awesome album, but it's very monotone in its styling and its pacing. It's all fast music, with the exception of maybe one song. And if you're not into heavy, jarring, fast stuff constantly, then you got to listen to it in stages, and that's kind of what I have to do with Painkiller. So that's kind of why it's never at the top of my list for Judas Priest albums. And it seems after that, because it was such a popular album, it was such a popular comeback, they tried to emulate it again. They kept trying to recreate it. They did this one. And then this is the next album after Painkiller. They did Jugulator. Okay? Again, heavy, thrashy. Tim Ripper Owens is on the vocals on this one. And it's a really heavy, and again, it's good. It's a good, if you're into thrash and you're into like dark, heavy things, it's really good. But it's not something I can listen to on constant loop, and it's not a go-to because it is that one style tempo. It's just, you know what I'm saying? Okay, good, because I can't explain it any other way. Then it seemed like they came out with, um was it not Redeemer of Souls? Halford came back. They did another album, Angel of Retribution, which unfortunately I don't have with me. I know. I brought visual aids this time, but I don't have all the visual aids. This one I don't have, at least a hard copy of. And they tried to get back to you can tell they were trying to find their original Judas Priest sound. Then they did, um, what was it? Angel? No, they did Redeemer of Souls. Okay, Angel. They did Angel of Retribution. Then they did Redeemer of Souls, and it's another one I don't have. But I think that's when Glenn Tipton was kind of not participating that much in the writing. I think they must have, because they were starting to recreate Painkiller again. They were trying to recreate Painkiller. Then they did Firepower. All right, and now again, I liked Redeemer of Souls, and I do have a copy of that laying around someplace. I don't know where it is. Um, but they did this. All right, they did this next. This was the one of the last thing they did. They did Firepower. I liked Firepower. I did like Firepower more than I liked uh, what was it? Not Redeemer. Yeah, Redeemer of Souls. I liked Firepower a little bit more than that. They did a few more tempo changes. Not much though. It sounded a lot more of a continuation of Redeemer of Souls, if you get what I'm saying. Still trying to recreate that feel and recapture that lightning of Painkiller. And so when it came to this latest album, I was afraid that it was going to be, it was going to be more of the same. When I picked up Invincible Shield, you know, I was afraid that it was going to be more Firepower-ish and more Redeemer of Souls-ish and more. I thought it was just going to be like another let's make another Painkiller clone, And again, they're great albums, but they're not what I consider Priest, at least the classic Priest. Well, this one, it seems like, well, it doesn't seem like it. Glenn Tipton took a bigger hand in this, and you can even listen to it, especially on songs like The Serpent and the King, and Panic Attack. You can hear different Giants in the Sky. You can hear his thumbprint all over this, and it shows. It shows. It reminds me more of, again, with the visual aids. I know you don't want to look at my old ass all day. It reminds me more of stuff like Hellbent for Leather, and it reminds me more of stuff like Sin After Sin. All right, and it's in those veins because you can hear more melody. There's more tempo change. They've got the more medium tempo songs. They're not afraid to slow things down a little bit. There's more breaks. Um, Scott Travis, the drummer, he's really impressed me in this last album because I've always felt like the albums he did after Painkiller, I felt like he had maybe two or three go-to beats. He had like a very thrashy, bat, 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 that very thrashy beat, and he has, um, that driving double bass, and it's like that was it. And there were times where I felt like I would have played that differently and made it more of a classic Priest song. Well, it's almost like he reached in and read my mind because on this album, he does that. He does that a lot more. He plays a little less like Scott Travis and a little more like Les Banks, who, if you'll remember, is considered one of, excuse me, that's breakfast, one of Judas Priest's best drummers. Okay, because he had the sound and style right for the music. And I think if Travis keeps on like this, they can get a lot more output. And if guys like Glenn Tipton keep writing the way they've been writing, they're gonna have more. They're gonna have great albums just like this one. But this is what you get in this album. And now this is the pros of it. It's I got the eight song set. There's a deluxe version that's an 11 song set. I'll get into that show in a minute. But right now, this is the eight volume eight set. This is the inside jacket. That's everybody that's on it. And you can see they mentioned Glenn Tipton this time. Andy Sneap produced it. Andy Sneap also plays live with Priest, and some tours, what's his name? Tipton shows up on, but Sneap does most of the live guitars. But Tipton is given all the guitar credit for this album. I sprung for the red vinyl. This is a 2-album set, okay? Now this is where my cons come in, and it's the same thing I bitch about just about every time I do an album review now, it seems like. It's a double album, all right? It's only 8 songs. If you bought the special edition album, that would have been 11 songs, okay? 11 songs can fit on one disc, unless one of them is like an epic song, which, none of them are. None of them on this album is more than, I think the longest song is 5 minutes and 26 seconds. All right. And out of on the 11 song LP, I'm sure somebody likes all 3 songs. I only like 2 of the 3 anyway, so I just went with this. Now, 2-record set. Why did they do it? Well, it's pretty easy. If it's 2 records, they can charge you twice the price. This was $43. All right. Again, I can get the CD for $16, and I can get an MP3 download for $10. Which brings me to the question, if you just had a fan spend $43 on your album, colored vinyl be damned, why the hell can't you just include a download card? I know on some of these, the earlier ones, they were doing it. Here, look at this. See, they had download cards. I don't know why they stopped doing that. I thought it was a great idea. So you can listen to it on the go. You could promote the album more with your friends or whoever you're hanging out with, or you're working and somebody comes in and hears it. But either way, it forces me to have to spend the extra $10 for the audio download so that I could listen to it in my car. Because I prefer vinyl and I don't want to buy a CD. Now, that said, it's a great album. I encourage everybody to go get this album. And that's really all I got to say about it. Until next time, get the hell off my lawn and go buy some Judas Priest and have an awesome day.